an interesting concept, isn't it? Sometimes it goes fast, sometimes it goes slow. But regardless of who you are or where you are, each and every single one of us has 24 hours in a day. Now, although I know this to be a fact, I don't choose to accept it, and neither should you. But before I explore this concept of time with you, let's put some real numbers into perspective. But not just any numbers, your numbers. I'll ask you to grab a pen, piece of paper, anything to write with, anything within arm's reach, your phone. And do this. Don't just do it in your head, do it. It's powerful when you see it. Within a 24-hour period, on average, how much time do you spend sleeping? Write that number down. Now again, work. If you work or if you're at school, how much time do you spend on average a day? Write that number down. Now, going to the gym, personal health care, showering, reading a book, lump it in there. How much time on average? Write that number down. Now this last one, I need you to be very honest with yourself. Social media, Instagram, YouTube, Netflix, DMing, lump it all in there. And don't be too conservative. We often tend to be. What's that number? Write it down. Now add every single piece of line item. Add them all up together. What number did you get? Was it anywhere close to 21? The Bureau of Labor Statistics tells us that it would be quite around that approximately. But it's not about that, it's about your number. Now take that number and subtract it from 24. How many hours do you have left? How much time do you have left? Additionally, I'll ask you, what would you do with that extra time if you had more of it? Now, where I'm going with this, if you're anything like me, you have dreams, goals, and aspirations. Now, there's want to work more on your health, want to spend more time with family, you want to travel when it's appropriate again, you want to work on that startup, you want to work on that nonprofit, that new club you want to start. The list is endless. As a matter of fact, when I ask you, what would you do with that extra time? Something probably came to mind. Matter of fact, something probably came to mind when you tuned into this talk, how to get more 24 hours in your day. What was that? And if it's anything like you, if it's anything like me and you know that we tend to run out of time. Whatever we really want to do continues to fall by the wayside. So then what I tell you next, I think is going to get your attention. See, the thing is, you've been looking at this whole time thing incorrectly. See, it's not about the 20-something hours at the time that you added up. Nor is it about the time that you have left over. The problem is we've all been wired to look at time as something that we consume rather than something that we create. See, the problem is we've all learned to consume time. It's all around us. We're consuming it. But there are two types of people watching this right now who are listening to this. There's those who consume time and those who create it. Now, all of us are consuming time, and only few of us know how to create it. So how do we become like the notable few? Where luckily you don't have to look for it. See, this model has been all around us. We actually happen to fall victim of it rather than being the beneficiaries of it. So, in this next example that I gave you, may or may not have heard of these companies, but it'll help you put this model into perspective. Let's start with Uber, one of the largest taxi companies in the world. Owns none of its vehicles. Facebook, one of the largest content media producers worldwide. Owns none of its content. Airbnb, one of the largest accommodation providers in the world. Owns none of its real estate. Alibaba, one of the most valuable retailers worldwide. Owns none of its inventory. Lastly, the good old stock market, one of the largest market and exchange places in the world. Uses other people's money. Something interesting is happening here. And that model is called leverage. And you don't actually have to go far. You can go across the street to your bank. Your local bank is using it. These institutions are using it. Your very own employer, your future employer will use this. The question is, why aren't you? See, my goal is for you to be the CEO of your time, the chief executive officer of your time. Because I can assure you that if you're not, somebody else will be. Somebody else already has. So, how do I create more time, you ask? Well, 5 months ago, I would have said, look around the room. Now I think it's more appropriate to say, look around the Zoom. But I say that to say this. Start with the lowest hanging fruit. Start with the people who are currently actively in your ecosystem. Who can you count on, lean on, depend on? Look into your phone. Start there. Right? We need to stop looking at time as something that we consume individually and start looking at time as something that we can create collectively. One of my favorite books is The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. Fantastic book, by the way. And his notion is that we should all optimize for a 4-hour work week as opposed to the typical 40-hour work week. Now, where Tim was getting at was the concept of automation and liberation. But I want to add a third pillar in there. And that's the pillar of creation. See, instead of a 4-hour work week, why not optimize for a 400-hour work week of production, productivity? How about that? Okay, so how does this work for you? You're probably thinking, Ruben, I'm not a corporation, and I barely have enough time to make coffee in the morning. What does that look like? Well, if you don't get anything from this talk, make sure you get this. Stop asking, how can I? And start asking who. So when you start asking who, you fundamentally change and drastically change the action that follows rather than when you start operating with I. When you start with who, the who are the people, platform, and resources that you can lean on, count on, depend on. Start there. It's vital. It's extremely important. So, how does that look like for you? Start with the who in everything that you do. Correct? So why don't we go there? Practically, you're probably thinking, okay, that sounds nice, but how does it practically work for me, Ruben? Well, it starts with Adam and Sally. See, Adam and Sally are both like you and me. They're very busy individuals. They have jobs, grad students, activities, socially engaged in their community, socially active in their community. But they both operate with time very differently. Let's start with Adam. Adam has been a type A personality, A student all his life, always was really good at sports, always picked them up, top of his class. Now, Adam is very independent, but almost to a fault. See, Adam does know that there's no I in team, but he truly believes that there's an I in win. Sally, on the other hand, very modest, grew up from very humble beginnings, was always just as good as her connections. Everywhere that she went, she left a fantastic reputation. And actually, when she steps into the room, she typically lights up the entire room. Very admirable. But let's take a look into their lives. They both have aspirations to become CEOs. Adam wants to be a CEO in the corporate world, while Sally wants to become a business owner to help uplift her community. They both operate with time very differently. Let's take a peek at work. See, Adam at work, we'll start with at home. Adam at home is assembling a piece of furniture. But Adam orders that piece of furniture from IKEA. To anybody who's ever been at IKEA, they know that whatever time it says on that manual, multiply it by 3. It's quite the battle. But he takes a stab at it because that's what Adam does. Very independent. And while he's assembling it, he finds himself going down a rabbit hole. He assembles the piece, he's got the wrong piece in place, he reassembles it again. Next thing you know, he's going down a YouTube channel called DIY, Do It Yourself. It gives me the goosebumps just to say. Sally, on the other hand, she's very savvy. And Sally knows right away that this is going to be a challenge. She has the same piece of furniture that she ordered from IKEA, but right away she goes onto a platform called TEDxBrandeisU. Once she's on there, she finds a good quote from a handyman that she uses. But she doesn't stop there. What she does next is interesting. She goes and uses a social platform. We'll call it a Facebook group. It's that time of the year, students are moving in. So she posts on there, is there anybody who would be interested in receiving a quote from a handyman? I got a good one. She receives 3 responses. She takes those 3 responses and gives them to the handyman and tells him, would you be able to offer me a 75% off discount price on assembling the piece of furniture for me if I bring you 3 referrals? Of course, it's a win-win situation. People, platform, resources. But she doesn't stop there. She coordinates in a way that while she's in class, the gentleman assembles the piece for her, the handyman assembles the piece of furniture for her so that when she comes home, it's already been assembled. One is creating time, another one is solely consuming it. But it doesn't stop there. See, at school, Adam faces a challenge. He's tackling this exact same problems that Sally is tackling, but he's not gaining any traction. He's spinning his wheels. By the way, we've all been there. So it's really important for us to identify when we find ourselves in that situation. Sally, on the other hand, knows right away that she has an issue. She has a challenge. So she reaches out to a former boss who's a subject matter expert in that field. She reaches out to a former classmate who's taken the class before. And then she posts a question in a forum. When she goes to work, she comes back, a very different outcome happens compared to Adam. She has 3 responses from 3 individuals: former boss, former classmate, and the forum. But what happens in the forum is interesting. She receives 7 responses. Now, those 7 responses and the professor and the former classmate collectively help her get over the hump of whatever challenge she was facing. Adam, on the other hand, after work, comes back home and he's exactly back to where he started. Back to square one. 0 traction made. It's inevitable that we understand that Adam and Sally, just like you and me, are going to be consuming time. The question you want to ask yourself is, what are you doing while time is being consumed? Are you also creating it? See, it doesn't stop there. Adam is a hustler, very independent, like I said, right? So he has 2 tutoring sessions. They're both tutors. Adam and Sally both tutor their students. Adam has a morning session for an hour, while also another one in the afternoon. That's 2 sessions. Sally, on the other hand, has 3 students she needs to tutor. Only for 1 hour. How could this be? See, 3 months ago, Sally used a platform called SurveyMonkey. She reached out to her students and asked them, would they be interested in having group tutoring sessions? Ask and you shall receive. They all said yes. It's a win-win situation. But she didn't stop there. Sally went on and offered them to do group tutoring on a Zoom call. She now saves herself the commute time, is making 3 times the amount per hour that Adam is making. Adam still finds himself commuting and operating individually. Towards the end of the year, of course, grad students, they're all optimizing for that next job. So it's application time. Adam is going down the application dark hole of submitting resume. By the way, we've all been there. It feels like you're submitting your resume in a dark hole, right? Absolutely. But he's spending 2 hours a night doing that. Sally has heard of these individuals called headhunters. Headhunters, for those of you who don't know, are individuals that will help place your resume in front of potential employers. Those eventually, headhunters will then place you for you to get a job and they get a commission out of it. It's a win-win situation for everybody. So of course, Sally uses 1, right? Of course not. We call her Savvy Sally for a reason. She uses 4. By the end of the semester, Sally has 2 job offers while Adam has none. It's important that we understand that we must become time creators and we must start asking the question who in every single thing that we do. When I opened up the conversation, I said it was very important for us to explore time. Explore time in a new framework, because only once we start to explore time will we then understand that we need to become creators of it. See, we must change the way we look at time. We must change the way we speak about time. Time is money. Time is not money. Production is. Time waits for no man. Actually, men and women can both create more time by using the people, platform, resources. Warren Buffett tells us that the chains of habit are too light to be felt until they are too heavy to be broken. So then how do we apply this new model, this new framework? We apply it by using it in every single thing and task, challenge, goal, obstacle that we have. Ask who. Stop asking how can I. Start asking who. And please, share this with the people in your network, in your life, so that they will also be able to count on you, but so that you can also count on them, so that you can get more than 24 hours in your day. My job is done, and yours has just begun. My name is Ruben Kanya, and looks like I'm out of time for now. Thank you.